Just now, I received a report from head of the security service of Ukraine, Vasil Malyuk. A brilliant operation was carried out. It took place on enemy territory and was aimed exclusively at military targets. Specifically, the equipment used in strikes against Ukraine. Russia suffered truly significant losses, entirely justified and deserved. I thank the security service, General Malyuk personally, as well as everyone who was involved in the operation. The preparation took over a year and a half. Planning, organization, every detail was perfectly executed. I can say with certainty that this is an absolutely unique operation. What's most interesting, and this can now be stated publicly, is that the office of our operation on Russian territory was located directly next to FSB headquarters in one of their regions. In total, 117 drones were used in the operation, with a corresponding number of drone operators involved. 34% of the strategic cruise missile carriers stationed at air bases were hit. Our personnel operated across multiple Russian regions, in 3 different time zones, and the people who assisted us were withdrawn from Russian territory before the operation. They are now safe. It is genuinely satisfying when something I authorized a year and 6 months ago comes to fruition and deprives Russians of over 40 units of strategic aviation. We will continue this work.
Ukraine has destroyed almost 40 Russian strategic nuclear-capable bombers, huge humiliation for Putin. Meanwhile, Ukrainian and Russian delegations met in Istanbul again. How did Ukraine manage to destroy Russia's nuclear-capable bombers, and what does this mean for Vladimir Putin? Ukraine has launched a large-scale drone attack on several Russian strategic air bases. The affected airfields include Olenia in the Murmansk region, Belaya in the Irkutsk region, Ivanovo in the Ivanovo region, and Dagilevo in the Ryazan region. The security services of Ukraine first transported FPV drones into Russia and later concealed them within mobile wooden houses. These drones were hidden under roofs of the trucks that were already placed in the trucks at the appointed moment. The roofs of the houses and trucks were remotely opened, allowing the drones to take off and strike Russia's aircraft. This special operation, named Spiderweb, took more than a year and a half to prepare, with President Zelensky personally overseeing its progress. As a result of the operation, 34% of strategic cruise missile carriers at the main airfields of Russia were destroyed. Additionally, the command center for the operation was situated near an FSB building in one of the Russian cities. A total of 117 drones were used in this attack. According to the Washington Post, this attack represents a significant blow to Russia's cruise missile strike capability and reveals vulnerabilities in major military assets and exposes weaknesses in Russia's security apparatus for preventing sabotage operations inside Russia. Among the destroyed aircraft were the Tu-95 bombers and A-50 reconnaissance planes. The Tu-95 bombers have been used since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine to attack Ukrainian cities, while A-50 aircraft are responsible for detecting enemy aircraft and missiles, working with Russian fighter jets by providing intelligence on targets and main directions. The Washington Post also reports on the anger among pro-war Russian bloggers. However, Vladimir Putin has not yet commented on this attack of Ukraine. They label the attack as Russia's Pearl Harbor. Military blogger Roman Alekhine expressed hope that Russia's response will be as strong as the US response to Pearl Harbor. Kremlin channels have threatened Ukraine with nuclear strikes, calling this attack as a serious blow to Russia's nuclear deterrence and defenses, since the country no longer produces the aircraft involved. Additionally, the night before the attack on Putin's aircraft, 2 bridges in western Russia collapsed, causing a military train and passenger train to derail. This incident resulted in several deaths and at least 76 people injured. The collapses occurred within hours of each other in the Kursk and Bryansk regions of Russia, which border Ukraine. Meanwhile, Washington Post columnist Max Boot has said that Ukraine just rewrote the rules of war. According to Max Boot, Ukrainians demonstrated a shift in warfare on Sunday with surprise drone attack on Russian air bases in Russia's Far East and Siberia, using wooden cabins transported by truck the Ukrainian intelligence service deployed drones remotely, exposing a major vulnerability for military bases. This raises concerns for U.S. air bases against potential threats from China, Pakistan, and North Korea. Militaries that believed their bases were secure due to traditional defenses must now address the emerging threat posed by drones. This shift may require substantial investment in counter-drone systems, highlighting that funds spent on conventional weaponry could be misallocated, according to the Washington Post. While Operation Spiderweb won't fully eliminate Russia's military capabilities, Max Boot is confident that it does illustrate that Ukraine has become a more formidable opponent than anticipated since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. With front lines stalemate, also Ukraine is compensating for manpower shortages by developing drone industry, having produced 2.2 million drones last year and aiming for 4.5 million this year. Also, retired Australian Major General McRyan outlined three main consequences of this attack for the outcome of the war. First, this situation will compel Russians to reassess the location of their strategic aviation assets and how their bombers and related infrastructure are protected. They would need to relocate their aircraft more frequently to avoid detention and detection, or move them even further away from Ukraine. Additionally, it may require Russia to redeploy air defense assets from other areas, also from the front lines. Secondly, depending on how many aircraft have been destroyed or damaged, this will decrease the number of Russian bombers capable of carrying out and launching long-range missiles against Ukraine. And reducing this Russia's capability is vital for protecting Ukrainian civilians and war effort. The second situation, the situation will influence Ukrainian morale, both for civilians and soldiers. Furthermore, General Ryan says that Ukraine is signaling to its supporters that it's still in the fight and Russia struggling to make progress, and any forthcoming Russian negotiating position should be viewed with skepticism. Beyond the war in Ukraine, these attacks also underscore the impact of drones on modern warfare. Moreover, this highlights the increasing vulnerability of military bases, both in war zones and at home, to inexpensive, easily concealed and rapidly deployed weapons, drones that can strike with little notice. While the latest Ukrainian airstrikes will likely influence the war, they are improbable to alter the political calculations of the Russian war leadership. Meanwhile, this operation shows that Ukraine still has some cards, despite Trump's criticism of President Zelensky. The Telegraph report. According to the Telegraph article, Trump has claimed that Ukraine has no cards in this war. However, Ukraine has recently proven him wrong by demonstrating impressive capabilities. Senator Lindsey Graham, a close ally to Trump, has outlined a range of sanctions against Russia for Trump to consider. He said, quote, "The ever-resourceful Ukraine used drone warfare tactics to successfully attack Russian bombers and military assets that are responsible for killing Ukrainian citizens. This operation vitally illustrates that Ukraine is very much still in the fight, regardless of the pessimistic statements coming from the White House. On his best days, Trump is often easily distracted and unfocused, and although the second term he has made misleading claims about the war, undermining the perception of Ukraine's resilience. For example, he falsely stated that thousands of Ukrainian troops were surrounded in the Kursk region when this was not the case. According to the Telegraph, he also claims that Russia would have taken Kyiv in 5 days, in 5 hours, if Russian tanks had not gotten struck in the mood. Ukraine's successful drone initiatives have embarrassed both Trump and Putin. The Telegraph reports the innovative use of homegrown munition in Ukraine is not only changing the dynamics of this conflict, but could redefine warfare of the 21st century. And despite being outgunned and outmanned by the invading army, Ukraine has cleverly adapted. Reports suggest that a few $100,000 worth of FPV drones have destroyed approximately $7 billion worth of Russian equipment. This success did not require any questionable mineral deals, as Telegraph reports. Instead, Ukraine is mass producing its own fleet of drones at scale, funded both by its own resources and Western allies, including United Kingdom and other European allies, as a part of a drone coalition. Meanwhile, on Friday, a group of pro-Ukrainian US senators visited Kyiv and issued a warning to Russia regarding potential sanctions that could severely damage its economy. During a press conference, US Senator Lindsey Graham delivered the warning, quote, "We have three branches of government and both the House and Senate are ready to act. What would change our minds? If Russia came to the negotiating table, agreed to a ceasefire and earnestly sought a peace, there would be no reason to proceed." He also threatened China with a new 500% tariff if it continues to purchase Russian oil.
There's supposed to be talks in Istanbul Monday. Nobody really knows what the agenda is. I think it's more of the same when it comes to the Russians. Schedule a meeting, drag it out, do one or two things to suggest you're trying to interested in doing something. But I don't believe Russia is interested in peace. As we speak, they're building up their forces along Ukraine's border for a counteroffensive in the summer or the fall. President Trump said that Ukraine doesn't have good cards. Well, Russia's much bigger and has a lot more people. I get that. But the world has a lot of cards against Russia. And one of those cards that we have is about to be played in the United States Senate. In America, you have more than one person at the card table. We have three branches of government, and the House and the Senate are poised to act. What would change our mind? If Russia came to the table, agreed to a ceasefire, and earnestly sought peace, there'd be no reason to proceed.
What are we going to do? Seize Russian assets. $300 billion in European banks, most of it in Belgium. Use it to pay for military arms for Ukraine. Use the reconstruction fund that's been negotiated just recently. The revenues and royalty rights from minerals that are part of Ukraine's natural resources, also to pay for increased military aid.
The game that Putin's been playing is about to change. He's going to be hit and hit hard by the United States when it comes to sanctions. China, the game you're playing with Russia is about to change. If you keep buying cheap Russian oil to fuel Putin's war machine, there will be a 500% tariff on all of your products coming into the United States.
He doesn't understand what 82 senators coming together from both sides of the aisle mean in terms of practical import. And these sanctions will cripple his economy. They will be bone-crushing to a nation that is basically, as one of our colleagues once said, a gas station with nuclear arms. He has one resource, and we are going to throttle that resource as a means of revenue raising.
Additionally, Russia and Ukraine held their second round of direct peace talks in Turkey this Monday. The Ukrainian delegation, led by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, and Russian side Vladimir Bedinsky, met for negotiations, but progress remains unlikely as Russia demands unrealistic concessions, including withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from 4 regions of Ukraine. Putin has also rejected US 30-day ceasefire proposal. He insists on a written pledge from NATO not to accept more Eastern European countries and lifting some sanctions. A senior Russian official told Reuters that Putin is open to a peace agreement. It should not come at any cost, according to Russian pro-Kremlin elite. And also they would like to prevent Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova from joining NATO. Russia seeks to ensure Ukraine neutrality and lift sanctions. One source noted that Putin knows that he can get a peace agreement on his own terms and wants to show that delaying peace will lead to more hardship. It is interesting that US President Trump has echoed this view, blaming NATO aspirations for the invasion. Ukraine, however, rejects any limitation on joining NATO and EU in a potential peace deal. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and glory